Well, I found this article very interesting. And I found it interesting for a few reasons. Firstly, because we are seeing the Antichrist finally releasing all of the information and knowledge that they have plundered and murdered and tortured for. And this information, they state, will be digitised. However, we can be assured that we will not see all of the information. It will be very carefully decided upon what information is released. And so this article was published on Yahoo News and goes on to say Vatican Library will digitise its archives and put them online, and it was published on the 20th of March 2014. Now it's also very interesting to note what the lamestream deem as newsworthy. So when they put this type of information forward, they want it consumed by the flock. And so we always need to have that in the back of our mind when we look at this information that's being relayed. So there's a reason that they are releasing all of this information, and perhaps it's because they know that there are certain people that are very interested in this story of us, and perhaps they would like to know who these people are that are interested in these stories and mythologies of us. I do not trust the Vatican at all, so I am always trying to look for every avenue that they are doing anything, because I know the time is nearing when they are going to begin to give the cue to all of their little creatures that have infected everything. Because this institution, this organisation has had a very long time to get everything in place. And so they are chameleons, and they will infect everything, and then when you least expect it, they will turn. So we need to definitely prepare for that time. But until then, we can have a look at what the Catholic Church has deemed we can now see and we can now inform ourselves with, because, the Catholic Church has taken all of this knowledge from humanity. They have basically plundered culture after culture of this knowledge, and it is perfectly normal to the collective that this happened and that the Vatican can keep this information locked up. This is when I talk about the magic that the Vatican use against the flock, that they can enact these atrocities against mankind, and somehow not only do they get to play out the most evil, unconscious acts, they get to do it under the guise of love. So we can really see how their magic has worked, and it's all to do with symbolism. They control us through symbolism. And we only need to see how people react to certain symbols, like the swastika, like the cross with Jesus, like the upside down pentagram. That's just to name a few. We are totally bombarded with symbols, and we are totally controlled with them. And, a lot of the time people do not even realise that they are emotionally attached to symbols. So, as with everything, symbols actually have a positive meaning, because everything has its polarity and everything can be used for good or for bad. But what the symbols that they have hidden were actually showing us was the story of ourselves, was the story of the divine, immortal ones that are the first imprint of divinity onto foundation from the mental emanation of the Creator. And from the first mental emanation of 96 fragments in 4 races, which it looks like we have denoted here, we then have mankind emanate from that first imprint. So imagine that that first imprint of divinity is then carbon copied over and over again. And this is how we expand from the first point. And this is why all of us are equal, and they have sought to hide this information, because you can imagine if this information were to be known that every race has messiahs, then they would lose control, because what they've done is taken away all of the other information and knowledge and then just kept the one messiah of the white race and completely left people feeling lost and unable to really connect with themselves because they've been given this false story. And the truth is that you don't need a middleman. You have a direct connection to the Creator. You are here because the Creator chose you to be here and experience creation through you consciously. And you are required, as a part of that covenant of being created, to be a good soul, and that counts. Because unlike the immortals, the divine ones, the imprint of the divine ones, the mortal man, has to be worthy of his gift of creation. And this is where we see all of this information of the heart being weighed, because we have to understand that the universe only expands in abundance, only expands in goodness. And just like when we have a virus in the system, we see that the system removes the virus and restores balance. And this is what happens in the cycle when we see the light return, and then we see this weighing of the heart and the harvesting of the souls. I mean, we see this mythology over and over again for a reason, because this is how everything works, also on an ethereal level, because we have to account for an ethereal level as well as we account for a physical level. And so we have to account for an ethereal cycle just like we have a physical cycle. So our physical cycle is our incarnation in our physical body, and our ethereal cycle is our ethereal incarnation as a soul on a larger cycle, which is the full processional cycle of 26,000 years. And at the end of that cycle, then once again the summer returns, the light gets bright and the summer returns, and we are purified, and the earth is purified and balance is restored, and the weeds are exterminated. So this is what the story is basically telling us in all of the mythology over and over again. And I have also seen some of the symbolism relate to what the Vatican have released here. So I have to thank Alan for actually giving me a heads up that he saw the 4 tribes, or the 4 creatures, or the 4 beasts, or the 4 evangelists. There's many names for them. But he actually identified it, and yes, I had a look, and I did find a little bit that I think does show us who the tribes are related to on this glyph. Now, I'll start with Dan, the tribe of Dan, because we can pretty clearly see that there's a serpent, and we know that the tribe of Dan is also connected on the Mazzaroth to the serpent. And then we have a look at down the bottom here, And we've got what looks like a man. When you have a look at all of the different figures, he definitely takes on the form of a man more than the other figures, but more importantly, he carries what looks like to be a spear. Now this is connected also to wands, which is the tribe of Reuben, man, the red race, and also the Tuyutha de Danann, as we've seen in the previous information, is ruled by the spear, and that is also connected to man and Reuben. So we now can see what looks to be the tribe of Dan and the tribe of Reuben. Another connection seems to be that here we see these three dots and these three dots that seem to connect the two, and we know that Ketha also basically reflects into Reuben, into man. That's what the symbolism shows. So we're even seeing this relayed here with these three dots. And then over here we've got the tribe of Judah, and I think that we can see the tribe of Judah here because I've seen these 5 spikes on the crown, and we know that the tribe of Judah is connected to God's law, and I see God as being the king. So I can see this as a symbolism, a symbol that is connecting to both, really. And we know that 5 is connected to Judah also because Judah is connected to the Pentacles, and Pentacles is 5, and 5 is God's law, God's will. So I think that we're seeing that maybe with this one. And also just, this to me looks a little bit like smoke, and we also see that the tribe of Judah is ruled by fire. And then if we come up here, we see we've got the tribe of Ephraim, which is ruled by the bull and ruled by emotions and the cup. Now, the only thing I can see that may relate to that is that we do have this symbol here that does look a little bit like something of a cup. I'm not sure that is something that I can see but could be seen as a reach, but then again, as I said, this is very different symbolism than I'm used to, and so the Maya did have a different way of relaying the information, but I can definitely see a connection to Ketha, to the tribe of Dan and the serpent here, and I can see a connection to Reuben, the tribe of man, and Malkuth here. And as I've said and shown in previous videos, we always get this symbolism. It seems to be stronger than the other symbolism, and I think that's because the tribe of Judah and the tribe of Ephraim can transmute, because we can go from will to emotion, which is what the tribe of Ephraim symbolizes, but emotion also inspires will. So it's one of these feedback type emotions that we have. Whereas when you see in the symbolism with Ketha and Reuben, it's more that this is this pillar that emanates from the conscious creator, from the mental emanation. And so I found that really interesting that we saw these connections there. But then I also saw that they broke it down to have what it looks like 4 clans. And because we know we can see this in different levels, so of course we've got the full race of the divine man, and we can see this also in Vitruvian man. And then we can divide that into 24, into the different races. But then we can look into each race again, like we're actually removing a layer and we're going deeper, and we can see again that we've got 4 clans within the 24. And within the white race, the 24, we have the clan of Dan, Judah, Reuben and Ephraim. And then under those clans, we have 2 more tribes. So in each clan, we have 3 tribes. Okay? And so there's 6 divine ones in each tribe. within each race. So we can see that there is elements of each of these races within each tribe as well. And so each tribe has an aspect like each race within it. And certain tribes within the white race will have more dominance of that influence. Dan will have a mental dominance, Judah will have a dominance of will, Reuben will have the instinct, and Ephraim will have the emotion. The aspects will all play out within the tribe. And this is the beauty of seeing Cosmic Man, because it's like when Cosmic Man is together, and we can imagine Cosmic Man fragmented into 96, and each of his aspects of mental, foundation, instinct, and emotion and will together as 96 make the macro divine man. But then as each individual fragment comes away from divine man, it carries part of the whole. And so this is how creation works. Now, the other interesting thing I found was these dots here, because we can see that 5 represents, once again, God's will. And we can also see that is the 4 fingers and the thumb, God's hand onto foundation, onto Gaia. And we've visited this in previous videos as well. And I like to view this even as the philosopher's hand. But we also know, after looking to Vitruvian Man and looking to the information that Leonardo left us here, that we can see God as 2 hands as well. And this is because we have to take into account the feminine aspect of God. The feminine influence of God has to be accounted for on one level. And we can also see this from what my research is showing. And if we take in the principle of correspondence and the macrocosm and the microcosm, now if we can see the sun and the moon as the microcosm of, you know, the father and the mother, then if we look into the higher microcosm and we look to Orion, then we can look to the female aspect of Orion perhaps being Sirius on that macrocosmic level. And we can see Sirius is also seen as Isis, and Orion is seen as Osiris. So we can even see that in the ancient information and knowledge that this was something that they were relaying. And so this is where we see this accounting of the female within God. So even though the female influence is separate, it's also a part of God. And I think this is what we're seeing here in these 2 separated groups of 5. We're seeing not only the one hand on creation, but both hands on creation. And the one hand on creation I also like to look at is this information I found about the 5 trees. And we can see it in the Gospel of Thomas. Now, this is the information that the Catholic Church has decided to leave out of the Bible, because they got to decide what went in and what went out, and so they left this part out. And so this part's quite important because it's telling us about the 5 trees that are left in paradise. Jesus said, "Blessed is he who was before he came into being. If you become disciples to me and listen to my words, these stones will minister to you. For you have 5 trees in paradise which do not change, either in summer or winter, and their leaves do not fall. He who knows them shall not taste of death." Now, so this is talking about the Messiahs, okay, and God, because there are five elements. There are 5 extensions from the mental emanation of the Creator onto foundation when you count the tribes as a whole and count it all on one as a whole, because everything can always be seen as a whole or separate. So we even see that this symbolism is showing us that it does not matter whether we are in lower consciousness or higher consciousness. Divinity is still there, whether it is illuminated or it is not illuminated, it is still there. And so we are moving from the winter of our divinity into the summer of our divinity. And unfortunately, there's been an agenda since World War II to keep us asleep because they knew we were illuminating, they knew the sun changed, and they knew mankind was starting to wake up. So they put a program in place to stop us waking up, and they targeted certain psychological groups. And no doubt they would also know the psychology of the divine ones and would have targeted them with certain programs. These people are very, very evil and controlling, and there is such a deeper and darker undercurrent to everything that people don't really understand just what we are dealing with and the extent of manipulation that has been played out on mankind. When you understand what they have done, it is just mind-blowing that anybody could be so evil to enslave mankind in this way and keep them away from their divinity. And so this is what people should be starting to understand if they are searching for truth, and that is that the greatness is within. It is not looking outwards. It is not looking at aliens. It's not looking at you come from another planet or another star system, because that is the psyop. That is what the Jesuits want you to actually believe. And all of this alien stuff is Jesuit, because they want you to believe that the divine ones were external and different, whereas the divine ones were us, mankind. We are a reflection of them. It's all in us. Everything is in us. We are just an emanation from the divine first imprint of the cosmic man, the macrocosmic man, onto creation. We are all an emanation from that divine imprint. And so, basically, the mental emanation needed a physical manifestation, and that is done through the first imprint of mankind onto foundation. This is how creation works on that level. This is what they've hidden. This is what the information shows. All of the alchemy and the religious symbolism shows the same thing. And this information comes back to us because we begin to awaken, and we begin to question, and we begin to seek an understanding for who we are. And some of us, we just continue to take the easy path, and we never really understand who we are. And we, continue to be blinded by the false prophets that tell us to look outside ourselves, and that Jesus is an alien, and that Jesus come here now in a UFO. Well, is Jesus' mum and dad coming back to get him? Was it a one-way ticket? I mean, it's just, people need to understand that there's been an agenda. Look at the Ancient Aliens series and who owns the History Channel. It's Disney. It's all there to keep you from understanding that the greatness is within you, inside you. That's the whole reason for them existing, is to keep you away from understanding that. And so anyway, yeah guys, that was pretty much what I found. So I'm not, too sure about all of it, but just from what I could see with what we already know, yeah, definitely we are seeing some confirmations that the symbolism is carrying through, for sure. So I will put this diagram in the group, and I'll leave it there. And I will also post this article underneath. And as always, peace out.